Hello Guardians, it is Ebontis, and in this video I want to talk to you guys about the Wednesday article of the week, and let you guys know also I'm going to go on vacation from Friday for about a solid week. During that time, I'm going to be posting a Master Lost Sector guide, and you can use this same guide for Legend. You're probably just going to have one or two less champions in there, no big deal. I'm going to have a Lost Sector guide for every Lost Sector this season. Starting Friday onward, you're going to see them all. I'm working on finishing up the Legendary campaign playthrough, so that will just be out there in perpetuity. So if anybody needs the Lightfall Legendary campaign difficulty playthrough, whether they're new or veteran players, it'll be there for you too. But today, we got a reflection on Lightfall, launch and beyond. So Joe Blackburn does a little thing here, and I mean, they state they had their highest new lights, returning players, and active players than we did with Witch Queen. Pretty much, I can't even remember when they've been this high, outside of when they gave the game away for free for a little while. So, I mean, they've had big numbers. They have had big success. Now, that also means some things didn't hit right, and they do acknowledge that as well. So they are taking feedback and hopefully improving things like, oh, I don't know, Final Shape Story, for example, which I do imagine will be well. All the rumors that Lightfall was a filler season, not quite expected, but kind of had to happen. Still could have had better writing, for example, a little more reason to what we were doing. But it does feel like Final Shape is still probably something that's been in development for an extended period of time. So we will definitely have to see how that one comes through. But I think they're going to make sure they deliver much, much better on the Final Shape. At least in my opinion, I think they have to end the 10-year saga correctly. Otherwise, really going to just kind of leave us not feeling great. Overall, pretty good things. They're taking feedback, and they want to talk about what's coming in the future. Now, they mention ranking up. From the player identity team, you've got Guardian ranks and Commendations. Guardian ranks, as a goal, should serve as a guide to let you know what you should be doing to improve your Guardian, especially if you're new. That is a totally fine goal. They should create a social sign to others so that you can quickly glean from some information about a Guardian skill within Destiny 2. It's fine, but I don't know if it's totally necessary. There are other ways you could do that specifically besides a number, but, you know. Commendations are meant to create a cycle of gratitude that players are thankful for one another. They should reinforce that most celebrated Guardians are those who have earned highest respect of their peers. This is where they fail. I'm going to straight up just Commendations. Not a fan of basically the entire implementation. We'll get to that in a little bit. Having them as a gratitude cycle for another, be like, dude, you did awesome in that match. Even somebody on the opposite PvP team, if I want to just rank them as, dude, you absolutely, like, hell, good shots, nice night, whatever. Positive feedback in a game is not a bad thing. Right now, it is completely empty, though. That's the problem. We'll get to that. Meeting their goals. First thing is Guardian ranks. Now, they do state your rank displayed to everyone will reflect your highest rank earned last season. And if you achieve a higher rank than you did last season, it will be your new number displayed. So you're not going to go into season 21 on day 1 and go from like rank 11 back down to 6 or 5 or whatever they do. That's not a bad thing. Now, they also state they are going to mess with the ranks a little bit, like everybody's forever 6. They're changing some stuff up. You know, Commendations are easier to get now. They are going to start new players at like 5 to 6 to 7. Should be a little bit more manageable. They're, kind of reworking some of the basically requirements or tasks that you need to do. Trying to mix things up. They say remixing. That was the word I was looking for. Hopefully they can get this to be better. A better path through, a better guidance through the game. Give new players a little bit more of an example of how everything works. I'm not a perfect programmer. I know there's things, but I feel like if I was going to write a new player guide, there'd be a lot of stuff to cover in there. And I'm not sure it does it, but I haven't really gone through as a new player either. So maybe I'm full of it. Who knows? Overall, Guardian ranks, I'm kind of okay. I just don't really care too much about the system right now because everyone started at 6 and then like I was fine. I need to go run a Nightfall again or something like that, enough to be able to get up to like 8, which I'm close to. I just need to spend some time in a playlist. The idea, I think, mostly is that a lot of things that are going to be seasonal based are going to be fairly on the easy side, outside of maybe like doing exotic mission on a higher level, which should be at a higher rank, and getting back into like if you were rank 10 and you jump into the new season, you've got to do a few seasonal activities like run a new battleground, experience the story, level up the artifact, level up the vendor, which there won't even be a vendor in one of these future seasons. Those should go quickly, so getting back up to the rank you were previously at, from what we raid here, should be more manageable. Now, let me get to my issue with this other stuff. Commendations. Most of this I'm not a huge fan of. Like, the entire thing. Now, I will say this one I am a fan of. Adding a new commendation, Best Dressed. Cool. I am totally a fan of that. Now, they said in their update they reduced the Guardian rank objectives required. Fine. Further reduce the commendations required for... Or here, reduce the Guardian rank objectives that require players to give them. Further reduce the commendation objectives required for those. Reduce Hawthorne's weekly powerful reward commendation from 20 to 5. At this point, you're making it kind of a joke. 20 is not that hard to get if you play some activities on a weekly basis. 5 is like... You could do one raid and be done, which, you know, if you're playing that, you don't need commendations as an incentive to play. They're also working on updating the eligibility for commendations based on participation or lack thereof. So, I mean, the fact that somebody jumps into a Crucible match late could work against them. I don't really like that. Objectives to receive leadership commendations in ranks 10 and 11 will be retroactive for the season. So raids and dungeons that you lead from day 1 will count towards your progress. Why? Anyway, the whole thing about commendations for me is that it is cool to have a positive system. Be like, hey, other team, our team, this dude crushed it. You're best dressed. You made a nice play. You popped a bubble at a cool time. You were thoughtful. I'm totally fine with those. Give me a little more variety in the verbs that I can use. That'd be great. So that some things can be a little more specific instead of joyful. I'm like, really? In a Crucible match, I'm joyful. I'm killing other people. Who knows? But commendations should not be tied to ranks, progression, drops, anything of that nature. Take them out of Guardian ranks, personally. Take them out of Hawthorne's weekly reward. Not necessary. I mean, if you don't have ideas for a better reward for Hawthorne, 5 is fine. You can leave it. You may as well just put it at 1 at that point. But for me, commendations are okay and totally fine to have as a positive reinforcement for you, the other team, people you play with, people you play against if they just killed it. But in general, tying anything to progression at all, I just still don't think it should be there. It's my opinion. Let me know if you guys disagree. Maybe I'm just full of crap. Difficulty. Now, Neo Muna's difficulty at first obviously kind of hits hard. As you level up, it gets to be a little easier. And that's kind of a thing they noticed in some places, like the single-player campaign missions for Legendary Campaign. Honestly, I think they hit pretty well, -1, where enemies keep spawning. I'm not a huge fan of that. But in things like free-player Avalon or Nightfalls on Legend difficulty, sometimes it's not tuned quite right. So, Legend and Master already had this happen. Enemy HP scaler down by 10%. Just Legend and Master. This includes all non-raid and dungeon content with the Legend and Master monikers. Legendary activities, not really affected. For Avalon, HP should be reduced by about 33% in a full fire team, so the scaler is not quite as screwy. Not bad changes. Those happened recently. Heist Battlegrounds. Yeah, these are a bit overtuned. If you did them on Hero, I think it felt okay. I've heard on Legend and Master, though, that it is, like, damn near awful. I mean, I know it's been done, but I've heard it is truly awful to do. Not fun. Just not worth the time. So, hopefully they make some tuning here. They mentioned quite a few things. Heist Battlegrounds have a lot of enemies, and when you put those on high difficulty, not a lot of places to hide. Things kill you quickly. I mean, there's enough things that make them unfun. Making all of this stuff a little crazy was a bit much. So, like, Heist Battlegrounds don't need lasers. Come on, you know. So there's some tweaks they're going to be making. Neo Muna Patrol. In general, actually not bad once you get to a reasonable level. Still hurts sometimes. But they say certain patrols will be easier. Making Vex Strike Force happen more frequently is a good thing, so you can actually farm some exotics more than like once every 3 weeks when you finally see the activity. Less turrets in Ahimsa Park. Have the rank and files get replaced by tougher elites less often, because sometimes that felt like it happened a ton. Partition is replayable after you get your Pinnacle. I'm totally fine with that. Terminal overload. They basically state right now, due to technology constraints, that terminal overload, if you are in that zone, is pretty dead, unless that, and when that activity is not active. And if you're not around the terminal overload zone, also the zone is pretty empty. Now that's technological constraints or whatever the systems allow. Now they're trying to have the terminal overload director now more reliably match you with other people who are actually doing it, which is not a bad thing, so you can pair up with them. But that does make one of the patrol zones a little lighter in enemy density or anything going on if it's that zone for the day. So I don't know if that's anything they can do anything about, but just know that you're not crazy if you think that. Lost sectors. Now, they state they're not really going to change anything right now, because in Season 21, there is no power climb to do. So when you get towards the top of the power climb, they do get to be more manageable, and maybe they're where they want them. People were running them in 2 minutes, and that's probably a little fast for them on the average. Like, if I could, and I'm not even usually going optimally, if I can run excavation in like 2 minutes, that's pretty easy. So they are trying to tweak them a little bit, make them a little bit more of a challenge, which is not a bad thing. Now, the rewards from them, that's where questions come in. And I still think you need to have higher drop rates on those things, because otherwise you can spend an hour doing a bunch of stuff and it really kind of sucks if you don't get anything. You could run Lost Sector 6 times in, maybe it takes you 20 minutes to run a Lost Sector on Master. And if you don't get one in your first hour, not really going to incentivize you to keep going. It's a long time to possibly not get much at all. Threshers. They're meant to tackle tanks against Guardians, overtuned. They're going to tweak them a little bit so they don't just absolutely annihilate you. They've done some of that already. Vanguard scoring. They're going to basically take a pass at low map score multipliers to make sure things feel better. They don't want people to exploit high points, but it is also frustrating at certain difficulties that you can barely hit like certain point thresholds anyway, just because there's not as many enemies. All of those things, apparently they're going to do a review on over the course of the season. Hopefully that feels a little bit better. Exotic armor drop rates. This is what I think you guys are here for. The player should have a place to test their builds solo against endgame content. The player should have a place to acquire new rolls of exotic armor with some amount of determinism. I currently would say the only amount of determinism that you have in here is what slot. But when you have like 13 in a slot, then you got to hope for a good roll. Then you got to hope it's distributed correctly. It does end up being too many dice. Now, they mention some of this is going to change. I don't know if this is the section where they cover it all. That's season 21. They said they recently increased the drop rates from both Legend and Master. Now, I don't know how much. They said they want to be careful about raising the drop rate too much at a time when the activity itself will be getting easier and easier. And that's fine. But also, they still don't seem that high. Depending on how long it takes somebody to work through an activity, still feel pretty low. And they say Lost Sectors aren't the only ones, Vex Strike Force, but it's really, really hard to find those. So, nice thing is you should be getting kind of a knockout list. Then once you have them all, you'll go after your random rolls. So, Season 21. We've got some updates for build crafting. Powerful Attraction is going to allow you to collect orbs of power within a radius of you, determined by the number of copies of the mod you have equipped. So instead of seeking orbs that would have all your orbs come to you, like previously, this will be when you use your class ability, of which, well, hunters are probably going to be dodging everything. You got rifts, you got barricades. Those are going to be your ways to, pretty much when you use that, you pick up orbs, which is okay. But that'll be an actual mod of Powerful Attraction. Be curious the range on that one. Elemental Charges. Collecting the subclass collectible associated with your damage type. And they go into all that up here. Basically, Fire Sprites, Ionic Traces, Stasis Shards, Void Breaches, and then Tangles have an escalating chance to grant a stack of armor charge. On Strand, this is granted by destroying Tangles. The frequency of gaining a stack of armor charges is tuned differently for each collectible. Of course, some are easier to get than others, and that's fine. But the idea is when you collect any of the collectibles associated with your damage type, you will get a chance at armor charge that will get better and better. Shoot to Loot will also be able to pick up orbs of power. Now that's actually going to be fun. Cool Guy tweeted it. I think he did the video after I did my video, and he mentioned Kinetic Tremors, for example, on Battlescar is able to actually pair with Shoot to Loot. So I've actually had that work before. So yeah, Shoot to Loot's going to be an interesting one for sure. Also with Lightfall's launch, we got Strand, Season 21. We're going to get 3 new aspects, 1 for each subclass. I don't even know. Flechette. Sounds weird. I'm sorry if I cursed at anybody there. Flechette Storm. That sounds really awful. Storm. Threaded Spectre for the Hunter. And then the Wanderer. So I'm guessing the Wanderer would be something like if you cast your Rift, either your Rift comes with you or your Threadlings can be more, something about them because they seem to be. The Storm, no idea. Threaded Spectre, yeah, you can speculate. Artifact perk refunds. You will be able to kind of adjust some perks off and on with a single click instead of a full reset. Thank God, that was probably fast feedback. They weren't able to do it for launch, so they already knew about it, but good thing it will be coming next season. Seasonal ritual schedule. Being as there is no power reset, trials can start on week 1. Being here as there's no reset, they want to get you a little bit into the season, let you experience a couple things. Grandmasters are coming in week 4. The Grandmaster node will open on week 7, but Grandmasters start in week 4, so you'll have more time to farm those. Also makes you wonder how much we're going to be doing in those seasons, but it's not a bad thing to have access to those because we have no power grind. There's no reason not to. Now, the giant focus. Exotic armor focusing. 2 ways you can do this. Costs are still going to be expensive, so I'll be curious how this goes. We're adding exotic armor focusing to Rahul in Season 21. When this goes live, all exotic engrams, aside from drops from activities that award exotics, lost sectors of X Strike Force Nightfalls, those literally drop you an exotic upon completion, not an engram. They will no longer auto-decrypt. Now, the only times you typically see an exotic armor drop is just, or exotic engram drop is just random. It is just killing guys. Occasionally see one drop, be like, oh, I got an exotic. Totally random. Cool. That now turns into an engram that you can go focus. So you're not going to see a lot of these in the first place. Keep that in mind. So, normal decryption seems to be based on, so you've got Red War leg decryption, Red War hands, Red War this, Red War this. Then you've got Witch Queen, then you got Lightfall, then you got Beyond Light. Each expansion has a certain few. Red War had quite a few at the start, so you can go specifically after each one. It's going to cost you 1 exotic engram, means you just have to randomly get one to drop. 30,000 Glimmer, not the end of the world. 1 Ascended Shard. Now, there is no guarantee an engram with a manipulated outcome contains exotic leg piece first discovered during the Red War. That's fine. Does not say anything about stats. I don't know if you can affect this with your ghost mods to lean into a certain distribution. And if you spend your 1 exotic engram and an Ascended Shard and 30,000 Glimmer, and you get a 58 stat roll exotic, everyone is going to throw their controller through their TV. So I really, really hope they look at some of the stat distributions on some of these things, because if you kill us with bad stats on something this expensive, we're going to be mad and it only gets worse. Advanced decryption. Focus an exotic engram to specific entitled release Shadowkeep, Beyond Light, Witch Queen. Just like now, exotics that can't... So that's the advanced description. Now, precision decryption. So, sorry, this was above. Directly focus the exotic armor you want. Therefore, it will have a higher cost, 1 exotic engram, 60,000 Glimmer, 3 Ascendant Shards, and 1 exotic Cipher. Note, we plan to raise the exotic Cipher stack limit from 1 to 5. And you're also probably going, where do I get an exotic Cipher? You get an exotic Cipher from Zur. He has a bounty where you do like 21 activities, and certain ones cost more, or like give you more like high-level Nightfalls. But yeah, Zur, having the exotic Cipher bounty is something you're going to want to do all the time. At least get 1 of them now. 3 Ascendant Shards, though. As before, you'll be able to decrypt them at Rahul with no focusing for free. With no focusing for free. Yeah, you'll just get a random roll. Note that you can't get new pieces of exotic armor from focusing, so you'll need to collect them from Vex Strike Force or Lost Sectors to get your new ones. In the future, we're looking to move acquiring new armor to a more accessible location. Okay. Okay, so this is not a bad thing. Be able to take an engram and focus into a very specific role. That is fine. Now, it does say focusing with random stats, which I would guess if you have your ghost equipped with a certain mod, it would give you a high stat roll in whatever you choose. Not a bad thing. But again, if this gives me a 58 or ACD 0 feedback fins, when I spend all of this on it, people are going to be unhappy. So I'm just going to say that now in the hope that it makes it to someone's ears. But I still doubt it. Just saying. Do I want it to be a guaranteed 67? No. But it should probably be, with this costing up, probably a 63 or 4 minimum. And then you still have to hope it's distributed correctly. There's enough randomness in here. If I have 3 exotic engrams, and I spend 9 shards, and I don't get a reasonable roll, that is a lot of currency I just wasted trying to get 3 exotics. It's almost, it's rough, is all I'm saying. So, people who farm GMs, this is one thing you can focus into. But if you are not a GM farmer, this is going to get expensive fast. So we will have to see how that goes. They also state, coming in Season 21, we're upgrading more than 15 of our lower performing exotic armors and rolling out balance changes to several others. We'll have some exciting news for players who enjoy improving their raid and dungeon exotic drop chances through triumphs. We're taking a pass at team unfriendly Vanguard bounties. That's a good thing. And mostly that's kind of it. So I'm okay that the focusing is coming. I really hope they don't screw us with the stats. The seasonal ritual schedule makes sense. You have no level, so stuff should be available sooner. Couple more mods coming into the game for build crafting is good. Keep the mods coming. I want mods coming every season. Keep the build crafting getting creative. I love that. It just needs to be more. As for exotic armor drop rates, I mean, just kind of one of those things where if you do a master in 2 of them and you don't get an exotic, doesn't feel wonderful. So keep an eye on that one. Vanguard scoring, yes, please balance that stuff out. Threshers, they shouldn't just nuke you quite as much. Lost sectors, they're not changing them right now. They're watching them, but again, they're hopefully going to get easier the higher level you get. Terminal overload, it's just going to be a slightly empty sector. Neomuna Patrol should be more manageable. Faster spawn rate for the cool Vex Strike Force public event. Shouldn't get nuked by certain things nearly as quickly. Heist Battlegrounds, they were a bit strong at the high difficulties. Hopefully they tweak those a little bit. Hopefully a lot on some of those. They've made some changes. And then as for commendations, I'm just not a fan of how the whole system works. Hopefully they learn, but we will see how long that takes. And some adjustments to Guardian ranks to make the process a little smoother and more logical. So that is everything we got on reflecting on Lightfall launch and beyond. Season 21, I am looking forward to Season the Deep, if nothing else for the lore and the story. I think has potential to be cool because we're talking about the Deep and probably Hive. Just a hunch. Other than that, thank you guys very much. If you enjoyed this one, drop a like below. Leave a comment if you got questions, thoughts, opinions about anything that I said, or just think I'm an idiot. Please put that below as well. If you guys are enjoying my content, you can find me on Twitch or Twitter at Ebontis. But right here, if you are not, which I know many of you are not, hit that subscribe button, hit the alert bell. Got a lot of videos coming your way. Have a good one. I'll see you guys when I'm back from vacation if I don't post anything else. See you soon or tomorrow on the podcast.